This is the Scottish Club Rugby Podcast. The Scottish Club Rugby Podcast. With Stuart Cameron and Dale Clancy.
Hello and welcome to episode 25 of the Scottish Club Rugby Podcast. No club matches last weekend in the leagues due to the Calcutta Cup match taking place at Murrayfield, but plenty of rugby this weekend, and Dale Clancy with me as usual to take a look at them. And we'll also be having a chat with one of Garnock's legends of the club, Alan Brocket, who's turned out for them on 597 occasions. And of course this Saturday they can win promotion from National 4 to National 3 following an unbeaten season so far with 15 wins out of 15. So I'm looking forward to talking to Alan and finding out more about the only club of the 50 playing national rugby in Scotland to be unbeaten this season. But right off the bat, Dale, we've been mentioning the club every week. A magnificent season for Garnock, who could well become a major force in the next few years.
Yeah, they're obviously a club on the up, and they've had a remarkable season so far in National 4, and it's great to see that they can consolidate promotion. And we have seen a few teams go unbeaten up until 15 games and then fall off the wagon a little bit, so they'll be hoping not to do an air. But certainly so far this season they've been a cut above the rest in that division, so very much looking forward to hearing from them.
Plenty of reaction to our programme last week, of course, as you would expect, on the future of club rugby in Scotland. It's going to be an interesting few weeks before a decision is made, which we think will be mid-March, as to what's going to happen with the structure of club rugby and what will happen with the Super 6 clubs and how, in fact, they'll be integrated back into clubland, if indeed that's what's going to happen.
Yeah, it's going to run. It's amazing. Even at work, I'm speaking to people and they've all got their opinions and they're all stopping people in the corridors. And, obviously I work at Borders College, and Nicky Walker, who's been involved with Watsonian rugby over the last few seasons and successfully so, is getting asked questions everywhere he turns, and I think he'll be locking himself away in a cupboard just to avoid the questions. He gets hassled more about that than he does his actual job. But it's obviously a hot topic, and I think we're in a good position because everybody cares about it. Everybody wants to make sure it works. And
that's the good thing, I think, as well, isn't it? The fact that people are talking about club rugby. There's passion there. You can see just by looking at the offside line comment section. So many suggestions, but for every suggestion, 50% are for it and 50% are against it, and that's every single suggestion.
Yeah, I think the solution has to be a kind of more long-term solution, and it has to be something that gets the buy-in of the majority. It can't be something that's forced down your throat. And I totally agree. I think that there's a passion there and there's a care from a lot of individuals, because let's be honest, without clubs, without club rugby, Scottish rugby as a whole would be in a terrible position, in a terrible state, and sometimes the good work of the volunteers and the clubs which have built the foundation of our national game are sometimes taken for granted, and it's just a byproduct of what happens when it generates and becomes a business higher up the food chain. But it's great to see so many people opinionated and obviously firing back opinions back and forth and whatnot, and upsetting a few people as we do. But yeah, it's great to see so many people opinionated and getting their tuppence worth in.
Well, talking of being opinionated, regular listeners will know I'm not a fan of using playoffs to decide who becomes Scottish champions, but I also, of course, respect the rules of the competition, and the rules say there's going to be 2 semi-finals this weekend involving first placed Hawick against fourth place Kelso and second place Marr against third place Currie. So let's talk both games up, starting with the huge derby between Hawick and Kelso, and we're going to hear from Kelso Director of Rugby Neil Hennigan in a moment, but first Hawick head coach Matty Douglas.
Yeah, what a prospect Saturday looks to be. It's a massive game for both clubs, and look, we've been in these pressured situations before. We know what's coming. We're just really glad to be back at Mansfield. It's been a tough 2 months playing on the road, and we've had some big games in there, some pressured situations to try and get that top spot, and also playing teams who were chasing top 4. So we've put together some really good performances. I feel we're in a really good place, playing some really good rugby. And yeah, look, the talk is the pressure's on us. That we didn't want Kelso in a semi-final, but look, I'm whoever comes to Mansfield, we'll have a good crack. I'm really looking forward to Saturday's game. I think credit to Kelso, they deserve to be in the position there. They've strung together some really good results, and when you look at it on paper, there's 2 teams on form going at it on Saturday, and it'll all come down to who can deal with the pressure, but also who can put a performance in under pressure. And I feel we've been in these situations before. The players have trained really well. Our prep's been really good, and I'm excited to just get cracking. And the big thing for us is that we're at home. But look, it takes nothing away from Kelso. I think they're a side who are on the app. They've got some really good players in there, and they've got a great brand of rugby. And at the end of the day, we need to perform on Saturday. That's the bottom line. And look, if we can manage to get all these things right, then I'm hoping we're on the end of a result. But we know how tough it'll be, and the big thing for us is that we turn up and we can put a performance in that we're proud of. Team news wise, I've got a full squad to pick from. Obviously up to 22 on Saturday, so we'll be able to add a couple of boys, but no real injuries. We'll be going as strong as we can, and really looking forward to a game that we feel we can hopefully put some pressure on to Kelso, and leading to that we can put a performance in at home that we can be proud of, and hopefully we can get a good crowd down to get behind us. And at the end of the day, this is why we put the hard work in all season, is to win trophies, and the first kind of hurdle comes on Saturday, and hopefully we can get over that.
Boys are really looking forward to it. We've trained really well. It's a massive game for the club and the town. It's something that Kelso's not been involved with for many years. They've not really played at this level for around 30 odd years, so it's great to be back in the mix. An opportunity that's been carved by the players. They've really bought into the systems that Bruce and Kev and Doza and so on have all brought to them. They've went through the doors that have been opened for them. They've walked through them. They've given everything, and now they're getting an opportunity to play in a showcase match. And we don't want to be there just to make the numbers up. Everybody's saying all the pressures on Hawick and not ourselves, but we're putting enough pressure on ourselves because we feel we must perform and we must give it our best shot. That's because we are a proud outfit. We were very much humbled at Mansfield Park at the start of the season, and then by the time the reverse fixture came at Poinder, it was a much closer affair, and we didn't lose that game by much. But on the day, I think Hawick just about deserved that, and they've still been ahead of us there on that match. But so we've got to close that gap even further. So hopefully on Saturday we can do that, and that'll be by being very accurate. Our defence will have to be watertight, and we're going to probably need a bit of luck as well. But that's something that you have to make, and if we put a big performance in, and we can stay in the match, half time we're still in it, 6 minutes still in it, who knows, can take Hawick all the way. And then that really would put the pressure on them. We've got to get, settled into the match very early, and then get the set piece right, get the kicking game right. We've got to field things well. We've got to defend. All these things are going to have to be at the best they've been all season. If they are, I believe we can get a result, and I believe that if we have to go to a dark place to win the match, our players have done it a few times. I mean, Hawick have been in these matches several times now, and they've won all of them, so they've got a lot of experience. They've also not lost a match at Mansfield since October 2019, so that's almost 5 years of a record there. So, records are there to be broken, so we'll go there and we'll try and do that. I think that if we can stay in the match, as I say, for as long as we can, we've got a good chance. On the selection front, we're pretty settled. Unfortunately, Liam Tate's not recovered in time with his knee injury, and that's a real shame for him. He's had a cracking season, so I feel for him. James Thompson is on the bench for the first time in weeks, which is obviously going to be disappointing for him, and he's very, very unlucky. It's just a tactical thing, and he'll play a big part in the game, no doubt, but I feel for him a bit. Cammy Thompson gets the nod in the second row there. The backs are pretty similar to what they've been all season, and the rest of the pack is as well. Bruce McNeil moves to 6. Cammy Brown plays at number 8. So a little bit of change here or there, but a pretty solid squad. We're expecting a big following for Kelso, and we really appreciate all the support we get from the faithful in the town. It's been absolutely tremendous support, and we've got, I think there's 16 out of 22 boys that came through the Kelso system are playing on Saturday, and I would think Hawick will be much the same, if not even more for Hawick. So it could be a massive crowd, and this match deserves a big crowd. So yeah, I think everyone around us to just look forward to this one, and what will be will be. But I'm sure our guys will give their best to count themselves And if they believe in themselves enough, we might can get that result.
Well, Hawick haven't lost at home, as Neil said, since Glasgow Hawks beat them 10-6 in October 2019. They hold the Bill McLaren Shield as well. So from a Kelso point of view, what an incentive. Smash the record, pick up the Shield, and keep it until August as well, because it then goes to home matches, of which they don't have any left, and book themselves a place in the final. A few dangling carrots there.
Yeah, and Kelso have nothing to lose, and if you listen to those two sound bites, it's clear to see who's the favourites in this battle. Hawick at home, Hawick the defending champions, not been defeated at home for years, and Kelso have had a great rise from National 1 and squeezed themselves into the playoffs, and it's a remarkable story, I think. From Kelso. I've said it last week, and I've said it to Neil Hinnigan's face as well. There's been times where I've probably not been a fan of the way that the rugby's been played at Poynter Park, but they have a real identity, a real purpose, a real direction and drive at that club now, and it's really nice to see, because they're such a historic club. They've been a successful club over the years, and Neil said it there, been about 30 years since they've been anywhere near the top of Scottish rugby, so the opportunity to get back to the pinnacle again has probably come a little bit sooner than they had imagined, but they've done it with a squad that has brought them success over the last couple of years. But you go into the Hawick point of view, they're imperious at home. They're a real intimidating outfit. Weeks before, when I was thinking about this game and the possibility of it being a game, because in my heart of hearts, I always thought it was probably going to be Hawick Heriot's we're going to be watching. The appetite and the excitement of seeing Hawick Kelso in a Premiership semi-final is huge, and I just hope that Mansfield Park is absolutely bouncing with spectators and fans from each side, and if there's some Borders clubs as well that perhaps aren't in action, I'd like to obviously see them there as well, because this is going to be one of those games that we might not see for a few years, we might not see it for a long time depending on what happens with Super Series. So the fact that we've got Hawick versus Kelso, near rivals, nothing to lose, the underdog, David Goliath, it's a huge battle, and something I'm really looking forward to.
Well, of course, this is knockout rugby now. A totally different mindset now, isn't it?
Yeah, I think if you think back to the Super Series games, and Heriot's were cut above everybody else, and they finished top at a canter and then played Stirling Wolves and just didn't play them at a game of cup rugby. Essentially, it was difficult conditions, but Stirling Wolves just were able to camp Heriot's in their own half and took their points when they were on offer. The league campaign at that level was always about tries, and there's a lot of mistakes in there, but it was just a matter of who could hold their nerve the longest. And Stirling Wolves fed off mistakes. Played rugby in the right areas, played a very smart game, and you only need to do it once. You don't need to do it 18 times. You need to do it once to get into the final. So for me, and I know we're not going to bore anybody else having an argument for the next 3 hours, but we've discussed it at length. But this is what brings the excitement for me. This is what I like to digest. Is that it's knockout rugby. There's more riding on it than perhaps this game a few weeks ago in the league. So it is, as you say, knockout rugby at Mansfield Park. Hawick are the champions. They've got the Bill McLaren Shield, and Kelso came up from National 1 and got themselves in the picture. So it's such a brilliant game for club rugby.
Yeah, all the ingredients are there, no doubt about that. It is going to be a fantastic occasion, but my argument obviously is beyond that. So let's move on, because earlier today I spoke with Kelso winger James Thompson, and this is what he had to say. Well, James, this is probably the biggest game of your career, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah. I've had a couple of big events for Berwick, but coming into the Prem and getting into a playoff, absolutely the biggest game so far.
Biggest game for you, but biggest game for the club as well for a long time.
Yeah, we're really happy to be back into the Premiership, into the top league, but we set ourselves some standards at the start of the season, and we've kind of come good on them, and we're looking forward to getting stuck into the semi-final and putting on a good show.
Let's take you back to the start of the season then, because of course a team coming up from National Rugby, not been in the Premiership for a couple of decades. I guess a lot of people were just thinking, well, it'll be you and Jed and Selkirk and Glasgow Hawks, trying to avoid relegation. That was the thing, wasn't it? To avoid relegation. But you end up in 4th place. So the difference between the team back then at the start of the season and the confidence that's built since that time has been tremendous.
Yeah, absolutely. Like we said at the start of the season that we don't want to be in a relegation battle. We want to be pushing up to mid-table and if results go our way, get into the top 4, which has happened. So yeah, there was conversations at the start of the season about pushing up the leagues, but I don't think anyone expected this. No one outside the camp expected this. So we've really come together as a team. The first half of the season, results didn't go our way. Like we had 2 draws to start off the season, then a loss at home to Selkirk, which kind of shook the boys a little bit. But since the turn of the season, I think Jed at home, we've really sort of kicked on and come together as a team. We've had a couple of impressive wins. I think the Musselburgh at home win, the Currie at home win, the Marr at home win, they really gave the boys a bit of a confidence boost, and yeah, we've kicked on from there.
And the first half of the season, you played the big 3, didn't you? You had Hawick and you had Marr and you had Currie, of course, all away from home. And the mindset going into those games, no matter how much you want to try and put it out of your mind, you're thinking, well, this is away at the big 3. And, you were soundly beaten in all 3 of them. Yep. But the way you turned it round, and when they came to Poynter Park, different story. Yeah,
I think going to the big 3 that have notoriously been top 4 teams in the past 3-4 years in the Premiership, it was a bit daunting for a few of the boys, including myself. Like, you go into Mansfield Park for the first time in your career, and yeah, you get a 60-something drubbing. It's hard to pick yourself back up from that. But then we got a decent win at Hawks at home, and we had them, I think, every 2 weeks for a 6-week period. We were going to one of the top 3 in the league, and yeah, like you say, results didn't go our way. But when teams come to Poynter, I've said it a couple of times to a few people, like, I don't know if it's teams having a bad day or it's a really good crowd. Like, the crowds are phenomenal, so teams don't enjoy playing at Poynter, and I was kind of hoping we might get a home semi-final, but maybe if we'd won those 2 draws at the start of the season, we could have been talking about that, but unfortunately not.
Well, the interesting thing from our point of view as broadcasters covering all this, and I think the first time we really raised our eyebrows was the Musselburgh game at half-time. The ironic part of that one was that we were doing the second half commentary. You scored all your points in the first half, but then you did it again against Marr, which was phenomenal, and Marr haven't had a hiding like that for a long time, and of course Marr are the team that you could play, along with Currie, of course, if you get past Hawick.
Yeah, absolutely. The Musselburgh game was probably the turning point of the season. So we got a decent win at home against Jed the week before that, and then the boys played so well in the first half to build up that score, and I think Musselburgh probably only scored with 10 minutes to go. I think they got 1 try or a couple of tries, and we always talk about starting well, and I think we've got the ability to start well in every game. It's whether we do it or not, and then we can kind of ground out those wins. But then alternatively, you look at the Currie game and they started really, really strongly, and we ground out that win. So yeah, we've got the ability to do both.
And to come back from 17 or 18 points down, whatever it was pretty phenomenal against Currie, who are one of the best teams in the division.
Absolutely. Like, from me personally, they throw the ball about a lot. They play an attractive brand of rugby, and that showed in the first 18 minutes. We possibly weren't ready for that. Going into that, like, first 15 minutes, we probably weren't up to the standards that we should have been, but we got a couple of calls our way, a couple of yellow cards, and we took the game by the scruff of the neck and kind of put them to the sword the following 60 minutes. So we didn't start so well, but they definitely fell off a little bit towards the back end of the first half. So we took that on and managed to grind out that win, which was like one of my favourite games to play in so far this season.
Now, a couple of weeks ago, we saw Glasgow Hawks go to Golden Acre and beat them, and I don't think many people saw that coming. What was the reaction when you saw that result? Because effectively it meant that you didn't have to go to Glasgow Hawks to win it.
Yeah, absolutely. So we had a 3 o'clock kickoff, and news trickled through to us in the changing rooms at half-time at Jed that Hawks had beat Heriots away, and that we just needed a result to secure a semi-final spot for a brilliant start to, like, a result in the season. So we kind of picked up the gears in the second half and put Jed away, and yeah, it's an amazing result for Hawks. But yeah, we got a bit of a kick on when that news trickled in, and we managed to secure that semi-final spot.
And that's what you've done, and that's the next game up. It's this Saturday. It's at Mansfield Park, a place where Hawick have not lost since October 2019. I'm sure you're aware of that. Yeah. But they have come close. Now, Currie, of course, in the Premiership final came very, very close to beating them. GHA weren't far away as well. So records are meant to be broken, and I suppose that's been the talk, that, you know, you can make a bit of history, because not only could you get that record, you could get a place in the final of the Premiership against either Marr or Currie, and the Bill McLaren Shield as well. There's a lot of prizes on offer.
Yeah, that would be surreal to beat Hawick at Mansfield Park. Like, everyone knows that they've got an incredible home record, but it's a one-off game. It's a semi-final. We're going to be up for it. We're really looking forward to it, and I think any team's vulnerable in the semi-finals. So yeah, we're gonna give it our best shot, and hopefully we can cause a bit of an upset.
Without giving too much away, how do you prepare for a game like this?
We just need to come together as a team. The Hawks result was a bit of a stumbling block, but I think we possibly needed that. We had a bit of momentum, and we possibly needed a kick up the backside to get us ready for this.
And there is a belief, I'm sure, that you can win this game.
Absolutely, yeah. Any team's got a chance in a semi-final, so I'm really hoping that we give them a good showing, and it'll not be the same result that was at Mansfield Park earlier on in the season. Hopefully it's a bit closer, and definitely hoping that for a Kelso win.
I mean, you and your brother Ewan have slotted in quite nicely at Kelso, because we've been watching you a lot, playing for Berwick, of course, at 15s and at 7s as well. And you seem to have slotted in really, really well into the whole setup, and you've been welcomed into the swing of things.
No, absolutely. Me and Ewan came from Berwick this year, and the boys took us in really well. We came in possibly halfway through pre-season, I think, and listen, the boys have been great. A lot of them are our own age, which helps a lot, but then you've got the older heads like Murray Hasty and Andy Tate, who's from Berwick, so it's nice to have that little home connection there. But no, the boys have been great welcoming me and Ewan in, and yeah, I don't think we've looked back this season. There's been a couple ups and downs and being on the bench out of the team and things like that, but no, we've stuck at it, and we're both enjoying our rugby at Kelso.
You've been playing league rugby. This is now effectively a one-off cup rugby match. Is there a different approach?
Not for me, but maybe the coaches and some of the kickers are thinking I might have to get my kicking boots laced up this weekend. So I think we're definitely going to go out to win the match, but if it comes down to a bit of a kicking battle, I'm sure Dwayne will step up to the mark and kick some penalties for us. If we need to grind out a win that way by kicking penalties like we weren't able to do against Hawks, then yeah, I'm sure we can step up to the plate and do that. We'll back our set piece and our lineouts. They've been functioning well the majority of the season, so it's down to Frankie how he feels the game's going. If the lineouts are going well and they run well on Thursday night, then we'll be confident going into Saturday. But listen, if you're right in front of the sticks, you're not going to kick to the corner. You'll take the 3 points in the semi-final and keep the scoreboard pressure going. What
a fantastic achievement just to make the semi-final, and Absolutely. Who knows from here?
Yep, who knows? Hopefully Kelso will win.
James Thompson, Kelso's new boy, has been plying his trade at Berwick along with brother Ewan, and they've really been going well together, haven't they, since they joined Kelso?
Yeah, they have. You know, they've served Berwick well over the last few seasons, and obviously there's still a connection to that club as well, but I think they've been really good additions to that squad. They've provided a little bit more depth, and you look at the Kelso team, and they've had a lot of consistency. They're very similar to Hawick in the key positions. Hawick have a lot of consistency, but the Thompsons have brought that to Kelso as well. You know, most of the players in that squad have played 13, 14, 15 games this season, and they're in that conversation. And you know, Kelso didn't recruit a lot over the summer to change the shape of their squad, but they already had quality in there. The likes of Melbourne, the likes of Grant Shields. You know, they've got some really good young players coming in there as well. The Dwayne Patterson in midfield, Frankie Robson with experience. But the Thompson brothers coming in there as well just adds to that depth and that quality that sometimes a club can't get from homegrown players in terms of their own local area. You have to look a bit further afield, but it provides players of that ilk with an opportunity to play at the highest level.
Well, I've also been talking to Hawick captain Shawn Muir. So Shawn, you've finished the top of the pile for the second year running. Still some work to do there.
Definitely, yeah. It's obviously massive to finish top of the table with the advantage that comes after that with a home semi-final. But like you say, we knew at the start of the season the 18 games are just a building block to what's to come. So a massive semi-final against Kelso. We know how tough it's going to be, but we're massively excited for the challenge.
Now in other divisions we've had Ayr and Preston Lodge, who are now crown champions. They've done exactly the same as you've done. They get a trophy, but you're not guaranteed one. How does that make you actually feel? I know rules are rules and everything else, but it must be frustrating.
I wouldn't say frustrating. It is obviously with the fixture congestion now. It's a little bit, that's the most frustrating part. You don't know when the final's going to be. So we know what it was at the start of the season, what it's set out to be. It's the playoffs. It was the same last season. It adds to the excitement. You get big crowds down here. The club gets a bit of money, but we know the job in hand. We know what we've got to do. We done it last season, so all the focus is on the playoff.
And it is going to be some occasion, isn't it? I mean, a fantastic atmosphere.
No, it's going to be massive. It'll be a huge crowd. I think it could match the final we had here last year. Two Borders teams. This is when you start pre-season in July. These are the games you want to be involved in. These are why you do the hard work during the 18 games to get to this position. And like you say, it's going to be a huge occasion, a massive crowd, and the buzz is starting to build now around the boys.
And I think it's the first time that we've actually had two Border sides in a playoff.
Yeah, I think it will be. I think obviously we weren't lucky enough in the old Premiership to be there, but since it's only been us. I think Selkirk have been unlucky a few times, but the two Borders teams this time is massive.
And you've played Kelso twice this season, first at Mansfield Park, which was one-way traffic, 61-7, something that Kelso won't want to be reminded about. But then you went there to Poynter Park, different kettle of fish. They were very unlucky not to get anything out of it. In fact, they did get nothing, but they came within 1 point of getting a losing bonus and one try of getting a try bonus. But they certainly made you work for your points.
They've improved. I think the proof's in the pudding. The results, they've beaten Currie and Marr at home in the last few months. So we know they've improved. They're not the side that came here in September, but I'd like to think we've improved also from that team. We've got boys back. We are a more settled squad. We've changed the way we play a little bit this year. Our attacking shapes changed. So we're a better team from when we met them in the season, and so are they. So it's going to be an interesting game, but we know the challenges they'll bring with obviously up front, Bruce, Grant Shields, etc., experienced boys like that, but we're ready for it. If we get our strongest team on the pitch, we fancy our chance against anyone.
And you're fiercely protective of that home record that goes back to October 2019. That's an incredible thing that you've done as a club.
Yeah, I think it's obvious if we stay undefeated between now and the end of the season at Mansfield, we'll lift the trophy again. So look, it means a lot to the boys playing here, playing in front of friends, family, and just playing out on the pitch for a lot of the people who have went before us. We know what it means, we know what the jersey means in this place, so it's a record. If I'm honest, we don't speak about it too much. It's not really brought up in conversations, but we know we're tough to beat here when we're on our game, so we look to carry that on. And
some teams have run you pretty close. Currie, obviously, last year in the playoff final that we don't like to talk about too much. But also GHA at the end of last season, which was a big surprise because the result of that meant, of course, that Musselburgh stayed in the division, in the Premiership.
GHA probably deserved to win that day. They were the better team. We were off it, but I think that's what champion teams do. They win when they've been playing poorly. People have their own opinions in the final. We got the job done in the end, and that's obviously all that matters. But yeah, teams have run us close, but we've always seemed to find a way to get over the line.
Your last game in the Premiership was at Philip Hawke against Selkirk. You managed to convincingly win that. I think a lot of people are surprised, probably yourselves as well, to get 59 points at Philip Hawke. It doesn't happen that often. But you also got the Bill McLaren Shield back, which was something you definitely wanted back.
Definitely. We were aware when we were going to play for the McLaren Shield. We knew we'd get a shot either against Musselburgh or Selkirk, the way the fixtures fell. So that's massive, getting that back in the cabinet. But we prepared for a very tough game at Selkirk. We knew it was going to be, we thought it was going to be hard. They've been a tough team for us in the last few seasons. They've pushed us really close with some good players in the squad. But everything just kind of came off for us that day. Set piece was outstanding. Attacking shape, some of the boys were phenomenal. Backline, Lee Armstrong and Andrew Mitchell were exceptional, and we, like I say, everything just clicked and we put the best performance of the season in. And
you mentioned Andrew Mitchell. What a season he's had. Top try scorer.
Don't want to blow him up too much, but he's been quality. I think 20 tries this season is phenomenal. He's enjoyed his rugby this season, and he's playing with a smile on his face, and you can see that by the performance he's putting out there. He's been outstanding.
Shawn Muir, so it's all set up for quite a cracker. Kelso against Hawick, and of course we'll be live from Mansfield Park from 2:30. Kick-off is 3 o'clock, and Robin Purdy and Dale Clancy will be there commentating on that one. So do tune into Rugby Radio, rugbyradio.co.uk, and enjoy a feast of rugby. Of course, that's not the only semi-final. Marr play Currie following the match 2 weeks ago at Millennium Park between the two, which decided who would get a home tie. Marr won 27-17 that day, so it's at Fullerton Park where that match is going to be played. And here's Marr's head coach, Kenny Diffenthal.
The boys have worked really well this week, trying to put behind them what we had a couple of weeks ago. A really tough encounter against Currie, as we knew it was going to be. Currie had the first half, we had the second half. We'd expect nothing less this weekend. Sure, Marr Cairns will have the guys hitting their straps and ready for us at the weekend. We have worked really hard on the bits and pieces that we failed to execute that Friday night. So here's hoping we can execute that. It'll be a very busy place on Saturday, and we look forward to welcoming Currie to Fullerton.
Well, Marr will start as favourites being at home, and the fact that they've turned the corner after their big defeat away at Kelso. How do you see this one going?
You know, you've got to look at form. I think I've said that before and I've been proved very wrong, but you've got to look at Marr. Have got the upper hand in this one. They've won this game twice so far this season. They've got Currie's number. You know, they're two teams which probably do clash. They're quite similar in styles. They've got big packs and they've got exciting backs out there. I just think that there's probably just a little bit more X factor in behind that Marr pack with the likes of the Bickerstaffs in there, you know, to potentially unlock that defence. But this is going to be a game of fine margins. Probably, if we're being honest about the balance of what you're going to see over the two semi-finals, I would imagine there's probably going to be more of a rugby battle in terms of the Marr Currie game, because I think the Hawick Kelso game is going to be niggly. It's going to be a proper border derby, a stereotypical border derby. In the rugby game, you know, between Marr and Currie, it's going to be fine margins. So, you know, these little wins, winning the battle at the breakdown, they've both got really, really good back rows, good quick scrum halves as well, and you know, it's who can get the upper hand, play rugby in the right areas, because as we say, it's knockout rugby. So I feel if whatever pack can get the stranglehold of this game, you know, they're gonna go on and be victors. But you know, Marr will be comfortable as well. You roll back a few years where they had to do it the hard way. They had to beat Currie at Millennium to win the championship. You know, they're at home here. They know they've got home comforts to then try and repeat that again away from home. So, you know, Marr have got the experience of doing that. You wonder if Currie do bear the scars over what's happened to them over the last few years, because they've been so close. And on two occasions, certainly they've slipped up, and certainly last year they let it all go because they were favourites going into the last 5 minutes and let the championship slip through their fingers. So, you know, in terms of the mentality of these squads and these players and the coaching teams that are there, I think the advantage probably lies with Marr.
They've had 5 defeats this season, which is very unusual for Currie. Do you think that's going to get to them at all? And also the fact that they, as you mentioned, you know, 5 minutes before the end of last year's final, and well, they had it in the bag.
I don't think the defeats will come into it this season, because you look at that the tally five games, but it doesn't matter when it comes to the playoffs, because it's a matter about being the best team on the day. It's not a matter of those games. I do think that the games that have been played over the last couple of years will come into it more, because that will be the narrative and the message and the driver for these players going into this weekend is, let's try and make amends. And even if the message is the other way, let's forget what's happened the last couple of years. That you can't. You're going to be thinking about the fact that Currie is a club, and these players that have been in that squad or the coaching team that have been there for a while, those individuals were involved in those games, so they'll be dying to make amends for that. So I don't think the defeats in the league campaign doesn't matter, because it's a race to try and get decent position. Currie were always going to be in that conversation. We said it at the start, you know, they were definitely going to be the 3 strongest teams. It's going to be the games that they've slipped up in the past, and you know, Marr will be hoping to take advantage from that. If they get on top in the first 10-15 minutes, then you know, Marr will coast. But if Currie can stay in the fight like they did in the original game that Robin Purdy covered up at Fullerton earlier on in the season, if Currie can stay in the fight away from home, it can be anybody's game.
And do we read anything into the fact that Currie was 17 points up against Kelso at Poynter Park, 10 points up at home to Marr, and let it slip? Is that going to be something that's going to be talked about in the lead up to this?
That will be, because that's a game management thing, that's a performance aspect of where Currie are going to approach this game. So they'll be concentrating on that in terms of reviewing where they've dropped off, where were they letting teams back into the game, where were they coughing up opportunities. So that is definitely going to be a conversation in terms of how do they approach this weekend. They almost had a free swing at Marr. You know, they were both in a semi-final. You'd have loved to get home advantage, but in this day and age, teams of that ilk, it is an advantage, but they'll almost feel like the pressure's off a little bit, and it's just one of those games. There's different narratives to this one, because Currie and Marr are so close in quality. you've got to say Hawick and Kelso, even if you listen to the soundbites, there's quite a distance in quality between those two sides. But this Marr Currie one, it's going to be those fine margins and nerves and jitters and, you know, the ghosts of the past. So a lot of really, really good narratives in that game as well.
Well, both games kick off at 3 o'clock, and in fact we revert back to 3 o'clock kickoffs right across the leagues this weekend. There's one match to be completed in the Premiership, and that's Jedforest versus Glasgow Hawks. Hawks are on a hat-trick of wins, and they'll leap over Selkirk into 8th place if they get 2 points out of this one. For Jed, a first win of the season would be something for them to cheer about if they can do it. We can hear from both camps now. Andy Hill, head coach of Glasgow Hawks, and first of all, Jed's David Grieve.
Picked up a few injuries against Kelso, so I think we've got about 5 or 6 boys struggling, so we'll give them to the very last minute before we decide a squad. But it's our last league game, and we've got to try and really get a positive result that'll put us in good stead for next season and for the new coach and new director of rugby coming in.
It's good to get back into league action this week and play against Jed. We know how desperate Jed will be, obviously, to kind of finish this season off with a win, having not done so this far, and they'll see this as their best opportunity to do so. So it's down to us to try and make sure we come out and have the same performance that we had against Kelso, where we were probably our physical best. So that's what got to be our aim coming into this game this weekend. There's a few changes to that. A few guys that are unavailable, a few guys that we're going to give opportunities to come in and let them stake a claim as well for a jersey, because we obviously see as the game the following week against Accies is an important one as well, to try and get ourselves into a bit of a cup run like we did last year and use that as a bit of a tail end of a season to try and end on a high. So that's a big focus this week for us going into training, and it's basically the big one. The big message has been to get back to our physical best. So look forward to that at Jed this weekend.
Well, yes, it's a dead rubber, but something to aim for both teams, as Andy and David said. And at the end of the day, when teams go out on the park, they want to win a game of rugby, don't they? Whether it's a cup match or a league match or a friendly, whatever it is. So we could find both teams with the shackles off, really going for it.
Yeah, Jed will have the shackles off. They definitely will. You know, at home at Riverside Park, they'll want to put on a bit of a show and certainly try and get that win that's eluded them so far this season anyway. Yeah, but as a contest, it's a group of guys going out in a rugby field to represent their club and enjoy themselves. There's nothing else riding it other than that, a bit of pride. But you know, it's a chance to go out there, fulfil the fixture, and try and enjoy yourself. So, you know, it's been a disappointing campaign for both those clubs. There's no getting away from that. I think, especially Glasgow Hawks, you think a couple of results go the other way, a little run of results, they could potentially have put a little bit of pressure on the teams above them, but it just wasn't to be. They just weren't able to get that run of results, get a bit of luck at the beginning of the season to be able to put that pressure on. So, you know, they've had a disappointing campaign, and well, yeah, we've spoke about Jed a few times, and you can hear there, obviously, their focus is next year, hopefully try and get a bit of confidence in the camp, and they've got a few posts up for grabs as well at the club, so there's going to be a different look to Jedforest next season, and they'll be hoping it's a successful one in National 1.
Talking of National 1, and Dundee can relax with GHK already relegated, and they have a home game against Biggar. GHA host Glasgow Accies in a derby at Braidholme, and Watsonians will welcome relegated GHK, who drew 40-40 with them at Anniesland.
You could probably press repeat on what I just said about Jed and Glasgow Hawks and just insert the other teams, but you know, this National 1 league, it's done and dusted. Ayr are up, GHK, as you say, are down last weekend or the other weekend there, you know, obviously after not being able to get any points. So it's just a matter of playing the games now. Watsonians are a club that's been a bit turbulent so far this season. You know, they've had some very good performances and obviously some bad ones in there as well. But you know, there's a Glasgow derby. GHA and Glasgow Accies are neck and neck in the division as well. So yeah, a bit of bragging rights, and that's pretty much it in National 1. So it's it's been Ayr's division so far this season.
Well, just one game to play after this weekend in that division, with Melrose travelling to Glasgow Accies. That's on the 16th to try and exact revenge on them. Remember, of course, 62 points put on Melrose at the Green Yards by Glasgow Accies. So certainly Ian Chisholm and his chums there will be looking to exact revenge, as I say, in that fixture. But that's on the 16th. The National 1 table as it stands, with promotion relegation issues sorted. Obviously, we've got Ayr home and hosed a long time ago now, and it's GHK who go down. Let's have a look at National 2 then, and promotion issues far from settled, although relegation seems to be just about sorted, with Aberdeen Grammar hoping for a miracle. Don't think they're going to get it though. They have to beat Lasswade away from home with a try bonus, and table toppers Peebles at home with a bonus point as well, and then hope that Berwick get pretty much nothing from their 2 home matches against Kirkcaldy and Lasswade. And the most optimistic of Aberdeen fans, I think, may find that a bridge too far. But let's not preempt things. Aberdeen visit Lasswade this weekend, while Berwick host Kirkcaldy, and here's Berwick's forwards coach, Paul Pringle.
Obviously, it's a slightly different proposition now, given our game against Gordonians 2 weeks ago now. Gordonians travelled down with a very strong squad. They were big, physical, really a really robust team. But we've been working on that during the week. We'd set up game plans and strategies, how we wanted to attack that. And to be honest, the boys were brilliant. They were really, really good. It just kind of taking on board what Colin was telling them and how he wanted us to play. And it really showed with the impact on the game. First 20 minutes were really tough. As I say, they were a physical team, and it was a bit of an arm wrestle. The second 20 minutes in the first half, boys just cut loose. Obviously our kind of big performers of the season, guys like Ryan Wilson, Ali Grieve, Duncan Hardy, and that were all at the fore. But for me, probably the most impressive things were, other guys like Liam Robson, Jordan Jackson, who probably had the best 40 minutes of rugby I've seen him play, who really stepped forward. Jordan was causing them all sorts of problems everywhere he popped up on the pitch, and he deserved the scores, and the penalty try came from his move and then getting through and then just being taken out at the last minute. So it was brilliant to see these guys step the front. I think Robbo had 17 tackles for a scrum half. So, these guys just give us real excitement for going into the next season. So we just want to keep building on that. Yes, we kind of dropped away a bit near the end, but you're never going to have an 80-minute performance, and Gordonians were always going to come back. Pleasing thing for me, last 5-10 minutes, we're defending on our own line. And then right at the very end, it's Captain Ali Grieve comes up with a turnover. They come back down at us the last minute, and then it's Ali just showing his experience again, just to allow their player to come over the line, but then hold him up just to finish the game out. So, a tight affair, but you've probably seen this season we've too often been on the wrong side of those tight games, but this time we were on the right side, so that's very pleasing. And it just means that we can go into these next 2 games in the league just probably trying a few different things, looking to build on what we've done this season, and then probably just getting a little bit more enjoyment out of them as well, given the nervousness around the last few games. So, no, very pleasing from a coaching perspective. In terms of line-up for this Saturday, we're much the same as the Gordonians match. Young Callum Arthur will be on the bench again. We'll hope to get him some game time this weekend and just continue his development. And like I say, Colin's had them working on a few different things he wants them to try out this weekend. So in terms of between us and Aberdeen, I think there's 9 points now. They've got Peebles and Lasswade. So, barring any kind of major upsets, you would like to think that's a safe. But at the same with the same token, we want to go out and finish our season on two home wins. So, yep, looking forward to Saturday, and we'll see what it brings.
So it's all about Berwick really needing something out of this game against Kirkcaldy to secure safety, really.
Yeah, definitely, and I think it's a good game. If the weather's dry at the weekend, then Kirkcaldy are a team that you can then throw about. You spread the park and try and move that big pack, and if it's a bit wet and a bit sticky underfoot, then Berwick are going to be in for a really difficult afternoon, because we've seen what Kirkcaldy did to Peebles in challenging conditions, and if you can let their forwards get the upper hand on you and start making those big runs outside of 10, like they were really impressive in challenging conditions. And not just the physical side of Kirkcaldy's game, it was the accuracy of it as well in large spells. They were able to control the ball, they were able to move the ball into the right areas, play the game in the right areas in challenging conditions. So just because Berwick are at home, this isn't a kind of foregone conclusion that they're going to pick up a point, 2 points, 4 or 5, whatever. This is going to be a challenging game, but you've got to look at the table, and it doesn't really lie. Kirkcaldy have played well in parts and they've played horrifically in parts as well. They've been involved in some exciting games, so it's an opportunity to try and overturn Kirkcaldy and hope that they're having one of their off days.
Well, of course, Peebles are due to play Aberdeen Grammar at Rubislaw on March the 16th for the title, but Aberdeen, well, they're away to Orkney next Saturday in the Cup, and if they win, then their league game will be moved to either the following week or the week after, depending on how far Aberdeen go in the League Cup competition, as the Cup takes precedence over the league. So we might even be looking at March the 30th as a possibility for Peebles' game. That's a long time to wait. Anyway, the National 2 table is Peebles, just to reflect on it, played 17, 72 points. Falkirk played 16, 66. Newton Stuart played 18, 60. Then it's Lasswade 58, Gordonians 45, Stuart's Melville 41, Kirkcaldy 31, Stirling County 26, Berwick 25, and Aberdeen Grammar are on 16. Now, the other match in National 2 this weekend is Gordonians against Stirling County. We can hear from Craig Deakins, the head coach of Stirling.
So a couple of weeks ago, we went down to Newton Stuart. There was actually quite a lot of changes in our team sheet, actually, from even from Thursday night to Saturday morning. A couple of guys had to pull off because I picked up some injuries, and also a bad bout of sort of sickness bugs and stuff. So there was a bit of a reshuffling in our team. A few last minute calls, people getting called in this Saturday morning before the bus left. Obviously, I was down to Newton Stuart, which wasn't ideal. However, we're still going down with quite a relatively strong squad. First time going down to Newton Stuart as well for pretty much everyone in the squad except for our captain, Big Monty, David Montgomery, who's from down that way. So it's a bit of an experience, a bit of one of these things that these young boys, they're going to learn so much from going down to Newton Stuart. Down there, they're big physical guys. They know how to play the rugby down there. They've not been beat many times down there, so it was a really good experience. However, I was a bit frustrated because we showed a bit of naivety as well. The conditions were absolutely terrible. However, these are the sort of games that when you're in the thick of it, you actually get to see what your players are made of. And to be fair, our guys, they stuck in for 80 minutes. They threw actually everything at it, but we just weren't really very clinical in them sort of conditions. And I know Busy was going on the pitch more often than not, just with water bottles washing people's faces down because of the mud was that bad in them. Because the weather front would come in and stuff. But for me, it's about how do we manage these situations. We don't do it at training. We're usually on our better pitches and stuff. But for me, it's what do we learn from that? What do we take away from that sort of game to make these players better for the future? Because these situations do crop up every so often. Frustrating that we didn't get any points away from the game. The game finished off 24-12 in the very end. It was on the balance, to be fair, up until the last 5-6 minutes. They got an intercept try, ran the length of the pitch. Then pretty much the last couple of minutes of the game, we went up and managed to sneak another score at the end there. But it was one of them games that even if we'd just taken that wee losing bonus point away from a game like that, these wee losing bonus points or a try bonus point means so much, especially off the back of what happened to us last season in National 1, getting relegated by only 1 point. Was the difference between us and I think it was Watsonians that were in the sort of the dog fight for that third position going down. At the moment, I'm looking at the points at the table we've got. For me, mathematically, it's still not quite done yet. Could really do with picking up a win this weekend. That'll just cements it. So for me, it's in our hands at the moment still. Still got 2 games to play. Going to Gordonians this weekend. And obviously want to take away his maximum points or take away as much as possible. We are looking pretty strong and there won't be any massive sort of changes in our back line or in our starting pack, to be fair, from what's kind of been going out, what's been featuring last few while. So obviously we're up to Gordonians, so we're looking to field 2 strong teams and come away with a positive result and some good points on the board, hopefully.
Craig Deakins, the head coach of Stirling County. Well, International 3, and there's 4 games being played this weekend. Allen Glens against Orkney, Cartha Queen's Park against Howe Fife, Hamilton v Dumfries, and Hillhead Jordan Hill versus Boroughmuir. So the 2 important games there, with Preston Lodge already crowned champions, is Cartha in second bottom spot on 16 points versus third placed Howe Fife, and also Hamilton in bottom spot against Dumfries, a couple of places above them.
Yes, you would say this weekend's a good opportunity for Hamilton to try and close the gap, because although Preston Lodge are already promoted, Howe Fife have shown that they're not too far away from the likes of Preston Lodge and Orkney. They ran them close in the the latter stages of this division, so they'll want to finish their season on a bit of a high and grab a victory. So you would be thinking that potentially this is going to be a more difficult game for Cartha Queen's Park than Hamilton's will be for them against Dumfries, because Dumfries are safe. They're not going to go down. It's either going to be Cartha, Queen's Park or Hamilton, so they might be able to just swing them on an off day, and they've got that game advantage at the bottom as well. Hamilton have played 15, Cartha, Queen's Park have played 16. There's 60 points to separate them, so it's a really good chance for Hamilton to try and close the gap and give them a little bit of a lifeline.
It's interesting because when we, at the early part of the season, we were talking about Biggar and how they hadn't won for about 5 or 6 games, and we thought, well, it must be any week now they're going to be clicking in, which eventually happened. With Hamilton, it never happened at all, because looking at their stats, and it's quite intriguing this, they scored over 30 points in their first 4 games of the season. They got 7 of their 10 bonus points in those first 4 games. Since then, they've really struggled, but it's a real all hands on deck to survive the drop.
Yeah, that's what we've been waiting on Hamilton to pick up a victory all season, and it's difficult because you go into the weekend and you think that there's a team a couple of places above them. This is a good opportunity, but rugby's it's a difficult thing to predict, because sometimes it can just be the weather that's favourable. Sometimes it can be key personnel being missing or not being available. So it's going to be interesting to see what the weekend holds for those 2 teams at the bottom. It's a huge weekend for them, because neither of those clubs will want to go down a division again. Cartha, Queen's Park and Hamilton have been up in higher divisions in seasons gone by, so they'll certainly want to be trying to avoid dropping down to National 4.
So you've got Preston Lodge, obviously champions already, with 83 points on the board. Their season is complete. Orkney have still got 3 games to play. They've got 62, Howard 59, Hillhead Jordanelle 56, Allen Glens 53, Boroughmuir 46, West of Scotland 30, Dumfries 28, Cartha Queen's Park 16, having played 16 games, and Hamilton played 15, and they're on 10 points. Having a look at National 4 then, Garnock obviously just about on the edge of promotion, 74 points for them, played 15. They've still got 3 matches to go, but they haven't been beaten yet. White Craigs 56, Strathmore 51, Stuart 51, North Berwick 47, Dunfermline 39, Greenock Wanderers 39, Perthshire 23, Murrayfield Wanderers 22, and Ross High 11. So this weekend, Garnock need realistically 1 point to become champions, 2 points to put it beyond any doubt. They've got such a massive points difference that it's ludicrous to even think that they can be caught in that department. They're away to Strathmore, who are in 3rd place. Garnock, the only unbeaten national club rugby side in Scotland. They've only dropped 1 bonus point. That was against White Craigs this season to spoil their 100% record. Interestingly enough, though, Strathmore in 3rd place, as I say, unbeaten at home this season. So add that into the mix as well, and that's going to be quite an interesting, entertaining day. And earlier today, I caught up with a true legend from Garnock Rugby Club, Alan Brocket, who's played 597 times for Garnock, a record which will probably never be broken. Alan, welcome to the programme.
Thank you.
That is some record, 597. I don't think I know another club player in Scotland who's reached that total. That's phenomenal.
Yeah. Where does the time go? I have a saying that the older I get, the better I used to be. So by the record of 597 games, I used to be quite good.
So when did you start playing?
I started at school, but that was quite late at school, probably at age 16. Mm-hmm. And the coach at the school at the time was also the coach of the Garnock under-18s, and that's how I became involved then. He introduced me to Garnock under-18s. There was no youth rugby at that time. It was always all the schools. I sort of stopped initially when I was at university, then I started playing again, but I played more or less continuously right through bar. I had a year in New Zealand playing there.
That's phenomenal to be at the same club. I mean, a lot of people tend to kind of go off, and as you said, you went to New Zealand, but locally they tried different places, but Garnock, clearly the club for you.
Yes. And I would like to think, it is very much a family club, that the people, once they become a member there, they stay, or they certainly keep their ties with the club.
And very good in the community as well.
Yes, particularly, in North Ayrshire, it's an area that thrives on the rugby.
Now, I must ask you, you were 3 games short of your 600th. 600 seems a lovely number to end with. Are we going to see you make a cameo appearance for 3 games or something?
It is tempting, yes. I'll probably have to bribe the coaches to allow me on for, a couple of minutes.
Coach, Garnock have been so far ahead over most of the clubs this year. You could almost put you on for 5 minutes and guarantee that you're not going to lose a match.
Yes, that's right. They could have, once we get a few scores in front, that would allow me on, hopefully, You never know. Watch this space.
Well, we certainly look forward to a nice even 600. I think that's a lovely number to end on. 597 just doesn't sound right, does it?
Exactly, yeah.
So tell us your story. Obviously, you went from school to Garnock, etc. What sort of positions have you played? So we hear a lot about certain club players who start off in the backs and end up, their number getting smaller and smaller and ending up in the front row. What was your story?
Well, I certainly didn't start in the backs and never was in the backs. I started in the front row actually at school. I don't know whether that was a result of my upbringing on a farm. As Bill McLaren would describe, we had agricultural strength, so I was in at the front row, and then I kind of moved back the way to second row, under 18s, and then I was in the back row for the majority of my rugby career. And then as age caught up with me, I moved back into the front row, and that's where I currently reside, or did reside.
So how old are you now, Alan, if you don't mind me asking?
By coincidence, that 600 would actually be quite good, because I am 60 myself.
Fantastic. Well, we heard of Dave the Brick at St Boswell's, a team that you met, of course, in the past, and he was playing at the age of 68, I think it was, before he suddenly retired. So
good bit to go then, yeah.
Absolutely. Well, it'd be great to get that number anyway. But it's a fantastic story, and of course the club itself fairly young, really, isn't it? It was an amalgamation, I believe, back in the early 1970s, about 1972, and you were involved from what date? Was it the 80s?
That would 1979.
And of course, in your heyday, you were captain as well, and you won 3 championships, I believe, back to back, which was an amazing achievement. So Division 3, I guess, nationally was the highest that Garnock got. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yeah, in the old format of the league. Yes, there's a bit of a symmetry just now where we currently, we came out of West League last year, and we had a good number of years in there and found it quite difficult to get out. And that there's a similarity going back to the old Division 7 of the National Leagues. We were in there for 7 years before we got promoted. So it seems to be the lower the league that's holding up the rest is quite difficult to get out of.
Yeah, and there is this trend really towards regional rugby for various reasons. I mean, for instance, financial, of course, all the bus costs and the travel costs, etc. It's not for everybody. And we know certainly down here in the borders, we have clubs like Hawick Harlequins who turned down promotion to the National Leagues because they just couldn't make it sustainable. And you can totally understand that. And I think it's really a case, isn't it, of a club that has ambitions like Garnock, who want to get back into national rugby. They know what they have to do financially and on the pitch, and it is a big choice to make, isn't it?
Yes. Historically, we've always enjoyed travelling nationally, and seeing teams, far away, down in the borders or up north or on the East Coast. We seem to enjoy our bus trips. So we are certainly glad to be back in the National Leagues, and we're certainly looking forward to our visit to Strathmore. I think it was probably early 90s we last played them, and I certainly have a memorable bus trip up there. I remember we come back somehow with a barrel of beer in the bus. I don't know how that managed here. We did admit to it later.
Well, I'm sure it's going to be a great bus journey there, and hopefully back as well. And I think you've got an extra bus going up as well, full of supporters.
That's correct. Yes. So it should be good. I know there's some travelling by car, so there'll be a good crowd there.
And there's no foregone conclusion that you're going to win this, is there? Strathmore, a useful side.
Certainly not. Like yourselves, they haven't lost at home this season, so it will be a tough fixture. But no, looking forward to the challenge.
So what's brought about this resurgence in recent times then? Obviously since COVID, things have really developed on the park for Garnock, winning the regional division, getting promotion, and then in 1 year, you got 1 point to go, haven't you, really, realistically, to get that. That looks as if it's on the cards, because you're the only team out of the 50 clubs unbeaten this season, and I suppose you'll be eyeing up the tag, the Invincibles.
Yeah, no, that would be good. A bit of consistency stemming on from our time in the West League Division 1, both in the players and the coaching setup. Some of the younger players who have come through the under-18s, they're developing into good players. So, I just like the combination, as I say, a bit of consistency and confidence, from the results. The fact that we got promoted last year, and the start of this season we had some good results. We had a friendly against Hamilton where the guys performed very well. And then one of the key matches this season in the league was against Whitecraigs away. It was our second game, and we beat them there. So that was a good confidence booster for the team, and we've just grown from that.
And Whitecraigs was actually the only team that stopped you getting a try bonus, I believe.
That's correct, on the return fixture, yes.
Yes.
Well, a long history of Whitecraigs, we've played them for many years, although when they were on the ascendancy, we didn't, so they're back with us now.
And of course the irony as well of playing Hamilton, who are a league above you, is that they'll be coming down, you'll be going up.
Yes, I see they're having a hard time this season, yes. Again, that was a team, going back 20, 30 years, we played on a regular basis.
So who are the people now that we should be naming with regard to Garnock? Your head coach, I believe it's Grant Ruxton, isn't it? Grant Ruxton, yeah, assisted by Alec Donaghy. So yeah, the two of them are making a good team, Who are the people that I don't like to single people out. There are probably two who were probably vying for the title of Mr. Garnock. Would be one of our senior members, who's Jim Wilson, otherwise known as Butch, who's legendary at Garnock and probably in the west of Scotland. And the other would be our sort of former coach, player, past president, is Andy King. He's certainly a stalwart in the club. And who's been captaining you this season?
It's Lewis McGeechie, one of the younger players who's come through the youth system. Unfortunately, hasn't been. I think he's played one league game. He had an knee injury actually in a friendly game against Hamilton, and it got the better of him. So he's had an operation fairly recently. So he should be back next season. So yeah, a bit ironic that our captain hasn't really starred this year.
So who's been standing in for him?
The previous captain, Matthew Shields. And he's his vice-captain, Keir Walker.
Is he the son of the president?
That's correct, yes.
So as you say, it's quite a family club.
I did say that, yes, it's a family club. Yeah.
What about ambitions now for Garnock? Because you've tasted this fantastic success over the last 2 seasons, and success breeds success. It also gets youngsters into the club because they want to be part of that. I mean, obviously, without looking too far into the future, do you fancy doing what Marr did, for instance, and go up almost consecutively?
Keep going. No, I like their view and things. They certainly increased their membership, and it's paid off dividends. Yeah, I don't think we're anywhere near that at this stage. But I think priority would probably be the youth. The junior section, and I know our president Charlie Shields is very much focused on that. And I think that would be our target to increase the numbers coming through. We don't have a big playing squad at senior level, so if we could keep them together and bring the young ones through, that would be our aim ultimately.
What sort of advice would you give to any other regional team who have ambitions to go into national rugby, but of course they need to have a system that works for them? What would you advise?
I don't know, probably invest in the youth, and try and keep them together. It is hard, particularly when they come at age 16 and 17, to keep them interested when there's so many other things that can attract them. But yeah, I would certainly focus on that and try and keep, sort of family, community orientated the club and involve everybody, whether that's, wives and partners and parents, etc. in it.
Well, we certainly wish you the best of luck, Alan, for this Saturday. Hopefully you'll get over the line. We also wish Strathmore all the best as well, but may the best team win. And I'm sure if it's not this weekend, then it's inevitable that you're going to be getting that promotion, and it's been a fantastic season. So well done to all at Garnock. Let's see you get over that 600 mark very soon.
Yes, if we could just mention, we're having this year a sort of grand ball to mark the 50th anniversary of the club, albeit a couple of years late because of COVID. So that's taking place in May in the Glasgow Hilton. So we're hoping, actually, this number 600 keeps coming up. We're hoping to go over 600 guests there. We're not too far away from that at the moment, but there are still a few tables left if anyone was interested.
Brilliant. I'm sure they'll get in touch with the club. We wish you all the very best. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks now.
Great to hear from Alan, and we wish all the best to Garnock for this weekend's encounter with Strathmore. And to balance it out, good luck to Strathmore as well, who will love nothing more than to be party poopers by stopping Garnock from being promoted this Saturday, and of course protect that unbeaten home record of theirs as well. Should be a great game. Well, also in National 4, Perthshire face Greenock Wanderers. Ross High welcome Whitecraigs, who are in second place, and they know a 5-point win minimum is what they need to stay in the fight if Garnock slip up. So we already know that Perthshire Perthshire and Murrayfield Wanderers have been relegated as they can't catch Greenock Wanderers, but Ross High have 6 games to play. They'll need a huge turnaround, obviously, and hope that Greenock and Dunfermline implode at the end of the season to save themselves. But that will be a monumental task for them, and that will also require an awful lot of luck, which I don't think they're going to get.
No, it's been a difficult campaign for Ross High, and obviously 2 teams, Perthshire and Murrayfield Wands, have played higher up the divisions in years gone by, and it just shows you how things can change in club rugby. So obviously they're going to be dropping down as well. But Ross High, they've had 1 win so far this season. It's been difficult for them on and off the field so far, so it would take a monumental turnaround, but it's very unlikely that is going to happen between now and the end of the season. So you can imagine that Ross High, it's just a matter of time before they're confirmed as the third team to join Murrayfield Wands and Perthshire.
Well, that's it for this week. We're back with another podcast next Thursday. And of course, this Saturday we'll be coming to you direct from Mansfield Park for the semi-final playoff in the Premiership between Hawick and Kelso, with news of all the other matches being played, including the other semi-final between Marr and Currie. And also, we'll be at the East Bowl final between Earlston and Edinburgh Northern. A bit of silverware being decided at the Hawk. But until next week, from Dale and me, bye for now.